Welcome, everybody, to another amazing episode of Wellness Warriors. Today, I've got a fellow colleague, Dr. Sarah
Rattray.
Rattray. I didn't want to pronounce it wasn't right.
Yes.
And Dr. Sarah and I met at Mindshare, and what really attracted me to her, we didn't really have an in-depth conversation, but she passed out these little relationship cards, and they were in a little envelope with a little heart and a purple ribbon, which of course caught my attention. And it's simple little cards that you can do with your partner and ask specific questions. And so when I saw that her work was all about relationships, I said, we have to have her on the podcast, because we know that essential number 4 in healing your emotional wounds is such an important part of healing. And if there's marital troubles or conflict, then we know that's going to affect your healing journey. So welcome, Dr. Sarah. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Well, everybody that I have on my podcast, I always start by asking them, what is the story behind what your path, your profession? Usually there's a pain that brings us to our purpose. And so tell me, why specifically have you chosen to work on relationships, being a psychologist, having great online courses and a forthcoming book that's coming out? So tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, my start really was arriving in college, and I just took Psych 101 for the interest of it, and it grabbed me, and I kept pursuing it. And what I found that interested me the most was, how do people get along with each other? My parents had a very contentious, critical relationship, and so I didn't have any model for how to do it right. And I was fascinated with what makes people get along, what makes people like each other. And at the same time, I learned about Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and at the top of that pyramid is self-actualization. And so those two things have just always fired me up together: how to be your best self, how to have like your best self relationship, and what are the components to helping people like each other and get along with each other. So I've been interested in couples since the beginning of my career, more than 30 years ago. And then a huge turning point was when John Gottman began his training for therapists after his many years of research into relationships. So I really learned a science relationship, a research-based understanding of actually what makes the difference in relationships.
I love that. Research-based. I'm all about
Yes.
Evidence-based
Right.
Work. So give an example of what that research would be that would help us to understand relationship dynamics.
Well, one important part is that physiologically, it makes an enormous, overwhelming difference if your body is in fight or flight when you want to talk to your partner, or if your body is relaxed. It's a night and day difference. So if you are startled, if you're feeling threatened, if you're feeling on guard because of what's going on between you and your partner, you want to talk, but you're not relaxed, you're going to bring the physiological imperative to fight or to run away.
That's why people fight.
Yes. And the way you're going to think things through, your brain is going to be telling you, you better fight to the death. And when you can relax first, the whole entire way your brain thinks is different. You're able to have creative problem solving. You are able to have empathy and compassion. Think about it. If you're fighting to the death, if your body is telling you we need to fight to the death, you don't have room for empathy and compassion. And that is so essential to having a great connected relationship, a great connected conversation. So that's just one tiny example of the power of what truly makes a difference.
I love that because I talk about fight or flight all the time. Your body cannot heal if you feel like you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, right? So you have to get into that calm, responsive mode where your heart rate is, heart rate variability. We teach our clients about that, to be in coherence and to be in that calm state, because that's when healing occurs. So that's wonderful.
And it's healing in your body and it's healing in your relationship. Absolutely. If your brain is interpreting your partner as similar to a saber-toothed tiger, you can't connect. You can't, have a good conversation.
Okay. So you mentioned not to let your relationship be collateral damage to your cancer. So let's talk about that a little bit. So, somebody perhaps chooses a more, natural medicine, evidence-based approach, but the husband really is like adamant about you've got to do traditional treatments. So as a couple, how do they come together with that without, having too much stress involved in that conversation?
Yeah. So a couple of different concepts. One is that both you and your partner, the decisions that you're making, the choices that you're making are based on values that you might not have articulated. So, if your partner is saying, I don't believe in that, what is the value that your partner has? It's really likely that your partner has a value that you can appreciate and agree on. For example, what if your partner's value is, I don't want to take a risk on something unknown? You mean so much to me. We can all get behind that, right? If your partner says, you mean so much to me, I don't want to take a risk. I gotcha. Thank you. We can get behind that. But if my value is, I don't want to poison myself, I want to, nurture my garden while discouraging the weeds or something like that. And if I want to convey that to my partner, probably my partner can get behind that. And then we want to be able to compromise. But to understand the value behind just, no, I don't want to do that. That's part of it. And there's a way to ask for what you need that opens up that conversation.
Okay, so how does somebody ask for what they need? Because that I've noticed, and I know that was part of my learning journey and going through my healing journey with breast cancer, is to ask for what I need and to state my needs and not be afraid about doing that. So what's a good way to get that process going for women? Because most women that are listening have a hard time expressing their needs.
Yeah. So first I want to start with how to set up a conversation about asking for what you need. And that ties into what you opened up with today, and fight or flight. So if I want to have an important conversation with my partner, first of all, I want to make sure that together we can be as relaxed as possible going into the conversation. So I always recommend that you let your partner know there's something I want to talk with you about. When's a good time for both of us to get together when we're not going to be interrupted, when we're not in a rush, when our energy's okay. It's not last thing before bed or on our way out the door to go to work or something like that. So you set that up. You also set up where. So, if we tend to have a good talk when we go for a walk in the neighborhood and there's a bench we love to sit on, let's have our conversation there. Or if we really have a good talk, in the living room, let's do it there. If the kitchen is always chaotic, let's not talk in the kitchen, that type of a thing. So just the way you set it up you're going to introduce a calmer situation. You're going to feel relaxed. And I encourage everybody to schedule enough time beforehand to do some of the relaxation I'm sure you've helped your community learn how to do. So that's part of the setup. So then I want to talk about the conversation itself and the preparation that you're going to do in your mind.
Yeah, I love the setup idea, because too often we say, oh, by the way, I need to talk to you about this. And can't do that. You've got
so let me just elaborate on that. Let's say I am trying to figure out what I'm going to say at the meeting I have in an hour, and all of a sudden my partner comes in and says, oh, I wanted to tell you this really important thing, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what? I've already missed the first part of it, and my head wasn't ready, and I'm not receptive, and I'm distracted, and now you're telling me this important thing, and now I'm already irritated because, you don't want any of that.
No, good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's 4 parts to asking for what you need. In some of this, I really encourage people to literally write down ahead of time so you can get clear in your head what it is. The first one is, well, it's a 2-part one. How do you feel about what that you want to ask about? So let's say you want to ask about getting support for your decision. So what is the about what? The about what is getting support from my partner. How do I feel? Maybe I feel scared, or maybe I feel disappointed, or maybe I feel worried, or something about getting the support. So I really want to be clear, and I want to talk about it in a neutral way, not a blaming way. So you never want to say something like, you never support me.
Mm-hmm.
We're having a fight. That's a great way to start with a fight. So you want to talk about when I want your support for something, that's much more neutral. I feel worried that you won't support me, something like that. So you really want to get clear in a neutral sense, what's the about what, and how do I feel about that? Because when I share with you how I am feeling, you're going to likely feel, if you're relaxed, you're going to feel some compassion for me, some empathy for me. You're my partner, you love me, you don't want me to feel worried. So if I share with you, when I want to talk to you about getting your support for something, I feel kind of worried that you won't support me. That's going to open up my partner's heart.
Mm-hmm.
So those are 2 things you have to get clear on, but we're not going to start with that, but you have to get clear on that and maybe write it out. The next thing that you want is a clear request. So the request might be, can we set aside time to talk about this decision? Or the request might be, can you come with me to my appointment? Or could you please learn about this thing I'm learning about? So what is the clear request? So those are 3 parts of the setup. Now here's a really important part of the setup. Once you get clear with all of that, is there something that you really appreciate about your partner that's kind of related to this? So let's say, for example, there was a time that my partner supported me on something else, a decision that I made, and I really appreciated their support. I want to think about that and fill that out with some details of what that was like. So to say to my partner, remember that time when I was trying to decide what to do about my digestion and you really were backing me? That felt so great. I was so appreciative. It made everything so much easier that I had your support. So here's something that I really believe in, that we have goals. We have we have what I call content. There's the stuff we're trying to talk about, like I need your support about this decision.
Okay. It's okay. Go ahead.
Oh, that's a dog.
Oh, sorry, there's somebody in the backyard.
Okay.
It's okay, Sophie. All right. Life happens, right?
Yes.
Go ahead. So you're talking about content. Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, but what's the most important thing is that the two of us get along together no matter what we're talking about. So I want to connect with you. I want to appreciate you. So if I say to you, hey, that time that you really supported me with that decision I was making, that made me feel so close and connected with you. I love feeling that way. So you want to get clear with those 4 steps before you start talking, before you have your meeting with your partner. And then you probably want to start with the appreciation. You don't want to start right in with the how you feel or the about what. So you would start with, hey, honey, I want to talk to you about something. Remember that time that you supported me, and give some details. Remember that you helped me with this and you really backed me up. It made my life so much easier, and I felt these good feelings, and we felt connected, and we were a team, and I love that. So and then you're going to move to the next 2 parts, how I feel and about what. So right now, when I'm thinking about asking for your support about this next decision, I'm a little bit worried that you might not support me or something like that. I mean, I'm trying to give a very general example.
Sure.
And then you make your clear request. Could we please talk about it? Or could you please learn about it? And that's kind of setting up the next conversation or the next phase. So if my request is, could we sit down and have a bigger conversation about that? There are more parts to that next conversation, because you don't want to dump everything on the person at once. Are they ready for this, on your partner? So that's kind of the beginning framework. That's the general framework for how to ask for what you need in a way that brings the two of you closer while you're having that conversation.
That's great. That's great. Now, to keep that relationship happy and healthy, I know in the little cards that you had, you asked some very pointed questions about, what were some of the attributes that I felt when I was first attracted to my partner. And I really like that because it helps you to reflect on why you fell in love with that person in the first place, right? So let's talk about that a little bit, because if somebody's been in a marriage for 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years, it's easy to just have the partner be part of the furniture type of thing. But it's, the reconnection is so important. So talk about that a bit.
Okay, so at least a couple things I want to say about that. One is understanding that you have the power within you to choose what you want to focus on. And you can make a conscious choice to focus on everything that you appreciate about your partner. And, sometimes that really comes into tremendous focus when you have a big health scare, like, oh my God, this diagnosis, I could actually die. And sometimes, at least for a time, that helps us realize we want to live every day to its fullest. We really want to show each other how much we love each other. And so when you've had that experience, you can really appreciate how all of a sudden circumstances change the way you choose to focus on your partner. But then when that scare, when you're healing, sometimes you lose sight of that. But anyway, just another very small example. If I am planning to buy a new car, and let's say I'm looking for a blue Toyota RAV4, all of a sudden, everywhere I go, I'm noticing all these blue Toyota RAV4s. Who knew?
Right.
So with my partner, if I want to focus on what I appreciate, that's going to change how I feel. And I'm going to start noticing, wow, my partner's really generous, and wow, my partner's really organized, or wow, look at that thoughtful thing my partner did. When you said like they're part of the furniture, part of that's in you. A lot of that is in you. You're not going out of your way to notice all the awesome things about your partner. When you were first getting together, excuse me, you noticed thing after thing after thing that you liked and you admired and you were grateful for and you were appreciative of. So I really recommend that inside yourself, you notice things and then you say it to your partner. Wow, honey, I was watching you yesterday play with the dog. You are just so playful and loving with our dog. I really appreciate that about you. And then also, I really want to emphasize that anytime someone says something like that to you, that you accept it and you take it. You say something like, thank you. And you don't say something like,
right. Don't reject it, accept it. Yeah, it's a gift.
Yeah.
It's a gift. That's wonderful. Wonderful. Well, we could talk for a very long time. There's so many things that I would love to hear. Now, tell us about, there's two things. Tell us about your online course and then also the book that's coming out.
Yes. So I have my flagship course, Relationship Mastery. That is an online program where I give you all the tools. So, today I'm talking about one little bit of a tool. I give you all the tools to, really have a stronger, healthy relationship, to get through the struggling times, to begin to thrive, and then really reach your dreams with your partner. But not only that, I help you understand that motivation piece that helps. When you just said your partner's like part of the furniture, it takes extra effort inside yourself to be ready to do some work. So, I can give you a package of tools, and if it stops there, you very well might not use them. So I combine them with really getting in touch with your motivation. Why do you and your partner want to forge and maintain and grow an awesome connection? Why is that important enough to you to do what's required? Because really, when it comes down to it, your relationship is practically the most important thing in your life. But it's so easy for life to make demands that take our attention away from it. So that is a powerful thing that I combine in my program. And my book, In Love Every Day, for research-based relationship habits to keep you close and connected always, is a very lovely book that combines the story of a couple and the tiny little changes that they could make in a given situation that makes all the difference. This isn't in the book, but if one of the partners in the story were to say, wow, that was great the way you played with the dog, and versus saying thank you, and let's talk a little bit about our dog and how much we enjoy it. Those are two very different days from just the smallest interaction. So in my book, I go through different moments like that. We're making just a little bit different of a choice. It's not groundbreaking, but saying, oh, I'm going to respond this way instead of that way, puts your relationship on a healthy, close, connected trajectory rather than a more distant or conflict trajectory. So, my book has those different stories as well as tools.
Love that. And when is the book coming out?
Let's just call it 2020. Not exactly sure.
Okay.
Yes,
Great.
thank you.
Great. And you also have a free gift for our listeners?
Yes. So, today I talked about how to ask for what you need and how to set that up. So this is just a really handy reminder with all those parts more explained and filled out. So that hopefully will really help people see and feel the steps to go through.
The Essential Conversations Guide, and we'll post that link when we publish the podcast. So Dr. Sarah, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. I'm really excited about this because we all know that being in a happy, healthy relationship is all part of living a happy and healthy life. So thanks for your time and everything that you do. So until next time, we will see you soon. And this is Dr. V sending you a big healing heart hug. Bye for now.